The day West Africa changed, inside the Burkina Faso-Nigeria Airspace Showdown. West Africa has entered a new and uncertain chapter. On December 8, 2025, a Nigerian military aircraft was forced to land in Burkina Faso after entering the airspace of the Sahel Confederation without authorization. Within hours, the Confederation raised its air defenses to maximum alert and issued one of the most uncompromising statements in its history. On the surface, this may look like a simple airspace violation. But beneath it lies a struggle far deeper, one involving sovereignty, regional alliances, constitutional conflicts, and the shadow of powerful external actors whose interests have shaped the region for decades. This moment is bigger than Nigeria, bigger than Burkina Faso, and bigger than the AES alliance. It is a sign of a shifting balance of power, one that could redefine the political direction of West Africa. Today, we examine what truly happened, the forces moving behind the scenes, and why this single incident has sent shockwaves across the continent. This response was not accidental. For the Sahel Alliance, sovereignty is not negotiable, and the forced landing served as a declaration that their airspace is protected with absolute seriousness. The grounding of the Nigerian aircraft became a symbol of this new posture. But beyond the immediate incident, the deeper question is, why was the Nigerian military aircraft there in the first place? And why did this situation escalate into one of the most tense diplomatic moments between West African nations in recent years? In the days following the incident, reports surfaced suggesting that the soldiers aboard the aircraft were traveling to Benin. Allegedly, the Beninese government had requested assistance to control internal unrest, and Nigeria agreed to send personnel. But this created another layer of controversy. Under Nigerian law, the deployment of military forces outside the nation's borders requires approval from the Senate, unless there is an imminent security threat to Nigeria. No such threat existed at the time. This raised speculation that the mission may not have been fully transparent, either rushed for political reasons or influenced by external factors not disclosed to the public. This is where the narrative becomes larger than a single aircraft. Political analysts across the continent quickly connected the dots to a broader geopolitical context. Over the past 3 years, the Sahel Alliance has repeatedly clashed with ECOWAS, a regional bloc historically influenced by external partners, especially France. Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso withdrew from ECOWAS, accusing it of undermining their sovereignty and acting under foreign pressure. They expelled French troops, closed French military bases, and redirected their security cooperation toward new international partners. Meanwhile, France, once the dominant external influence in West Africa, has been under increasing pressure as African nations reassess historical relationships and assert greater independence. It is within this context that many believe Nigeria has been positioned as a key player in maintaining ECOWAS stability, and by extension, preserving Western strategic interests in the region. The theory is straightforward. If France cannot intervene directly without backlash, it can encourage ECOWAS member states, especially Nigeria, to take actions that align with French geopolitical priorities. Whether or not this theory is fully accurate, what cannot be denied is the tension it reflects. Many Africans view the Sahel Alliance as a symbol of rising independence, while ECOWAS represents a traditional structure that some believe is still tied to external influence. The forced landing of the Nigerian aircraft, therefore, was not simply about an unauthorized flight. It was a confrontation between these two competing visions for Africa's future. The Sahel Confederation's reaction demonstrated how seriously they take their sovereignty. Their message was clear. Any attempt to operate militarily within their borders without approval will be treated as an act of aggression. This is a bold stance, especially given Nigeria's position as West Africa's largest military power. But the Sahel Alliance has built its identity on resisting what it views as unnecessary foreign interference and on asserting full control over its territory. Their leaders describe this approach not as defiance, but as a long overdue correction to decades of political and external manipulation. Nigeria, for its part, now finds itself facing scrutiny. If the aircraft's mission was not approved by the Nigerian Senate, then sending troops abroad pushes beyond constitutional boundaries. It raises questions about decision-making within the government and whether external pressure influenced the operation. If the aircraft did indeed intend to support Benin, then Nigeria may have been acting as a stabilizer in the region. But if the mission was part of a broader effort influenced by foreign partners, then Nigeria risks being perceived as enforcing policies that do not align with Africa's emerging desire for autonomy. This is why the incident resonated so strongly across the continent. It exposed fractures in regional alliances and revived uncomfortable discussions about who truly shapes policy in West Africa. It forced governments to confront whether they are acting in their own national interest or following the expectations of foreign governments with long-standing strategic stakes in the region. At the same time, the episode has energized a growing movement within Africa, particularly among younger generations, that demands clarity and transparency. They want African solutions to African problems. They want leaders who act for the continent, not for foreign interests disguised as assistance. And they want sovereignty to be more than a slogan. They want it to be a lived reality that shapes every political and military decision. But it is important to understand that the tension between Nigeria and the Sahel Alliance is not simply a clash of governments. It represents a deeper transition happening across Africa. Nations are reassessing old alliances, questioning long-standing partnerships, and seeking new political identities. The withdrawal of Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso from ECOWAS was not an isolated decision. It was part of a continental realignment. Several African nations today believe regional organizations must evolve or risk becoming irrelevant to the demands of modern African societies. The forced landing incident forces us to pay attention to these shifts. The Sahel Alliance is asserting itself as a sovereign bloc with its own political and security doctrine. Nigeria remains a dominant regional power, navigating both internal and external pressures. ECOWAS is under scrutiny for how it balances regional independence with international cooperation. And citizens across West Africa are increasingly demanding accountability from leaders navigating these complexities. Perhaps the most important takeaway from this incident is that Africa is entering a period of self-definition. The continent is no longer passively responding to global events. It is actively shaping them. The reaction to the Nigerian aircraft showed a level of unity and strategic coordination within the Sahel Alliance that was unimaginable a decade ago. And Nigeria's internal debate about the incident reflects a population more engaged and more aware of its political environment than ever before. What happened in Burkina Faso was not a mistake in navigation. It was a moment that revealed the evolving power structures of West Africa, the tension between independence and influence, and the growing determination of African nations to control their own narrative. The forced landing may have lasted only hours, but its impact will echo through the political landscape of the region for years to come. If you are watching this, you are part of the new Africa, an Africa that asks questions, refuses silence, and insists on a future built on its own terms. Stay engaged, stay informed, and let your voice be part of the continental transformation that is already unfolding.